Saelah pointed out the different meals she cooked and stored in separate containers to Suguru. They could easily be warmed up and would be simple to eat and digest. She also showed him where the quick snacks and extra water bottles were kept. There should be plenty for both of you, but if you need to make anything or have a craving for something, please feel free to help yourself to whatever, she told him. She was sure Suguru would have been able to take care of Denny's needs while helping him through his heat, but she wanted to make his job as easy as possible since it was the first time her friend was spending his heat with someone in a few years. She had also been the one checking on him and making sure he ate in the past, and it was a hard habit to get out of her first time leaving him in someone else's care. Denny also has a tendency to protest eating when he's in heat. He'll claim he isn't hungry, make him eat, withhold the D if you have to until he's eaten. Suguru laughed. I will make sure he eats. Saelah nodded. Take good care of him, or I'll kick your ass. Suguru raised an amused brow at her. I promise I will. Her phone vibrated, alerting her that her cab had arrived. My cab is here. I'll take your bags down, Suguru volunteered. You go say bye to Denny. Saelah thanked him before going down the hall to Denny's bedroom. Her friend had gone into preheat earlier that morning, and she decided to go to Suguru's a bit early. She knocked on the door, and Denny called her in. He was arranging his nest, funneling the items of clothing Suguru had brought for him into it. Hey, I'm heading out, she announced, stepping into the room. I need a few more items of your clothes before you leave, Denny said. Suguru's sin is taking over, and I can barely smell you now. You can take whatever you want from my room, Saelah said, reaching up to feel his forehead. He had a slight fever, the way he always did in preheat. I've given Suguru strict instructions to make you eat even if you claim you aren't hungry, so don't give him a hard time. I make no promises, Denny replied. Saelah snorted and pulled him into a hug. I'll see you in a few days, she stated, releasing him. Have fun. Call or have Suguru call me if you need something. I know better than to get between an alpha and Rut and his Omega, Denny said, so I will not be calling you. Besides, I doubt you'll be able to walk, he teased. They said their goodbyes and she exited the room. She changed her shoes and went down to her cab. Suguru was there speaking to the driver. She thanked him again for carrying her suitcases and all of the bags of prepared food down before sliding into the back seat. Saelah gave the driver Suguru's address and they were soon pulling away from the curb. When she arrived at Suguru, she let herself in and changed her shoes in the Ginkan. She left her suitcase there and carried the bags of food into the kitchen. She'd made more food than she had for Denny and Suguru since Satoru and Kento would be stopping by. Saelah also knew that Suguru had planned to go to the store and stock up, and upon opening the refrigerator, she found he had. She unpacked the containers of food and put them away. Returning to the Ginkan, she grabbed her suitcase and rolled it behind her, following Suguru sent into his bedroom. The entire place smelled of him, naturally, since it was his den, but it was more prevalent, thicker, stronger, and she knew he was in Pre-Rut. She entered the bedroom and found him exiting the bathroom with a towel around his waist and another around his neck. Hey, little one, he greeted, closing the distance between them and dropping a kiss onto her lips. Hi, babe. I didn't think you were coming until this evening when Kento got off, he said. Saelah knew he'd feel more comfortable with one of them there with them, but since he wasn't fully in Rut yet, she figured it would be okay. I decided to come early and leave Denny and Suguru to their own devices. It's a good thing I did because you smell like you might go into Rut early. How do you feel? Like bending you over that bed, but I haven't fallen into that headspace completely, so I'll control myself for now. My pre-rut usually lasts a day or two before the actual thing takes hold. Saelah subconsciously shifted, squeezing her thighs, and she hoped he couldn't smell the spike of arousal his words caused with how heavy his scent was, but from the flaring of his nostrils, she knew he had. Have you eaten yet? She asked, changing the subject. Not since earlier this morning. Then let's get some food in you just in case, she said. She knew what he'd said, but she wasn't sure his rut would hold off, though she wasn't an expert in the field and hadn't even known she was going through her own cycle when it started. Instinct told her Suguru's rut wouldn't hold off until tomorrow, and it was best to make sure he had food in his system. Saelah led the way into the kitchen when Suguru slipped on a pair of lounge pants and gave him a rundown on the meals she'd brought with her. Once he'd chosen, she made 2 plates and warmed them up. She carried them to the table before grabbing 2 bottles of water. Did you close up shop, or is Haruto working while you're away? He is, and I hired a couple of part-timers who do gig work. I've used them a few times before. What did you tell your clients? That I would have limited hours but would be available for emergency situations. I ran maintenance for the clients I know tend to need assistance or freak out when they can't reach me, Saelah replied. They continued to converse as they ate, Suguru informing her he'd made space in his closet and dresser for her, and once finished, she sent Suguru into the living room while she cleaned up. When she was finished, she went to the bedroom to unpack her suitcase since she would be at his place for at least 4 days. She would prefer not to live out of it during that time frame. Saelah put her clothes and shoes away before taking her toiletry bag into the bathroom. On her way out, something on the nightstand grabbed her attention. She went over to it and picked it up to discover it was a muzzle. She furrowed her brow, returning to the living room with it. Suguru. He turned his attention from scrolling through channels at the sound of his name. Saelah held the muzzle he'd left on his nightstand in her hand as she approached the couch and sat beside him. What is this for? She inquired. He took it from her hand. This is the first time I've spent a rut with someone I'm courting, someone I care about. I don't want to lose myself and accidentally mark you. You'll be able to talk with this on, because if not, I can wear a choker. He smirked at her. I'm aware you enjoy me talking you through it. I never deprive you of that, even while en route. So yes, I can talk with it on. She pursed her lips before releasing a breathy laugh. That is not why I was asking. I wanted to make sure you'd be able to tell me what you needed, what you wanted. But I guess that's still nice to know. She paused for a brief second. For the record, if you did accidentally mark me, I wouldn't be upset about it. Suguru tossed the muzzle onto the table. He knew she wouldn't be. That was the whole point of courting her, to eventually end up mating. However, they wanted to plan when they would do so, and him losing control and marking her in the heat of the moment was not ideal. When they marked her, they all would be present, all in their right minds and not fueled by rut or heat hormones. I know, little one, but Satoru and Kento might not be so understanding, he joked. Oh, you're scared of them. Don't worry, babe. I'll protect you, she teased. Suguru raised a playful eyebrow at her. I'll hold you to that. Be my guest. She tucked her feet under her. What do you want to do until your rut completely sets in? Suguru realized that it wouldn't be too much longer. While his pre-rut usually lasted a day or two, it seemed he was going into full rut sooner than usual. He wondered if it was because his Omega was there to help him through it, and his body was responding to her scent, the pheromone she was inadvertently giving off in response to his. Why don't we watch something, he suggested. Okay, she said, moving into his side. You choose. Suguru wrapped one arm around her waist and flipped through the channels. He settled on a movie on HBO and tossed the remote aside. He didn't care what they watched because he knew he wouldn't pay much attention to it, and he was sure they only had a couple of hours, 3 at most, before he went into rut. At some point, he started running his hand up and down her side before slipping it under her shirt. There was a fight scene on screen, but Suguru's focus was on the feel of her skin under his palm. Her scent, which had long ago become his favorite smell, filtered to him. It felt heavier in the air even though he knew it wasn't. He was just hyper-aware of her. His senses heightened. They were halfway through the movie when she pulled away from him and said she'd be back. Suguru immediately disliked the lack of her warmth at his sides, and he was tempted to follow her, pull her back to him. His alpha was clingy and didn't want his Omega too far from him, but Suguru stayed rooted on the couch. Soon he'd have her next to him, under him, until he was satiated. He listened to her move around the kitchen, and he assumed she was grabbing a snack until her footsteps disappeared down the hall. He waited, and when she didn't come back after several minutes, his alpha demanded he seek her out. This time, Suguru listened. He turned the television off, grabbed the muzzle, and headed down the hallway. He entered his bedroom and found several bottles of water and granola and protein bars on one nightstand, a few towels on the other one. Saelah exited the bathroom with the bottle in her hand. I thought I'd set a few things out since it seemed like we might be migrating here soon, she said, tossing the bottle onto the bed, and he realized it was lube. The muzzle soon followed the bottle onto the bed, and he pulled her into his chest. His lips found hers, and he placed his hand on the back of her neck to keep her in place. Suguru's alpha demanded that he hold her close, devour her lush lips, and ensure her tongue submitted to his. He kissed her deeply, swallowing down the little mule she released into the kiss. Her tongue followed his, and Suguru picked her up, laying her on the bed. His hand ghosted along her waist, and he broke the kiss long enough to remove her shirt. His pheromones thickened in the air. Their arousal blended, intertwining into something addictive, and he knew the scent would fill his entire house by the time his rut was over. It's okay, she spoke against his lip. You don't have to hold back. Those words caused his alpha to rumble. He wasn't surprised she knew he'd been holding back, but she'd taken the 3 of them at once a few days ago, and he didn't want to push her too far, too soon. Her hand ran down his abdomen and she grabbed the strings of his lounge pants. Let go. Let me have it, she said, and Suguru's rut settled in, clouded his mind, and he allowed himself to fall into it.